Someone's asking about Bible questions. Leviticus 23, verse 3. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. That word convocation means convene, assemble. You shall do no work on it. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. That means you're to keep it at home. You're also to keep it when you convene. There's a story many people miss when Elisha resurrects the boy of the Shunammite woman, and she tells her husband, I'm going to see the man of God. He said, why are you going to see him now? It's not the new moon or the Sabbath. That's because they would go together, listen to the prophet preach and teach. The Levites, that's when they would get the towns together in the synagogue and they teach and preach. Jesus, as his custom was, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day. So I wish he had said something about the importance of corporate worship with other believers. And God didn't say he blessed a day. In Genesis chapter 2, in the Ten Commandments, Exodus chapter 20, it says he blessed the seventh day. The word the is very important. It's a definite article. The Bible does not leave it open for us to pick our blessed day.
Exactly.
See, God says he's blessed today.
But sometimes, you know, for those who keep the Sabbath, we may have the day correct, but the problem is sometimes the way we keep it, that we're in error.
Yeah, you can, and the Pharisees did that. You know, they killed Jesus and ran home to keep the Sabbath.
Yeah.
They obviously had the wrong spirit.
Now, there's got to be a lot of people that have questions about the Sabbath day. So before we get too much deeper, we want to offer you this free offer here. And we've got this free offer called text with your phone.
Plug something in. I'll take your comment first, and I'm going to plug something in because Candace Owens recently made a remark. We have to play that in the light of talking about the Sabbath and what the Bible says and so on. Go ahead. I'll take your comment first, and then we're going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. I got to give pushback to Doug on that. I love Doug. I do love Doug. I appreciate his work. But him trying to force the corporate worship thing, he actually does a disservice on the exegesis because he's confusing the Levitical expounding in the Levitical laws. That's trying to make it clear with what's given in the Ten Commandments. Because what's given in the Ten Commandments is, and actually, Charlie, to his credit, he breaks it down. He actually goes into what the actual commandment is in the Ten Commandments alone. Yeah, and God is supposed to move us to effectively come into that understanding. Then the Levitical laws are put on top of it because obviously they couldn't get it right. They couldn't understand really what God wanted from them. So more and more laws are put on top of that. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because he's actually, and I forgive Doug for this, he's committing the Catholic definition of Sunday obligation. Because when you read the Catholic definition of Sunday obligation, church attendance is the priority. Sabbath keeping, they call sanctified rest, they don't say Sabbath keeping, is secondary. When that's actually not what the commandment is. The commandment is you work for 6 days, then you come into your rest. And since we're resting, then we're all resting together. We're resting for God, and thus we should do it in a corporate matter. See, the priority is important to understand why you're coming into that rest. But the church says you have to come to the church and take the Eucharist. And if you get around keeping the Sunday rest, then you can. It's secondary to what the primary command is. And I don't think Doug knows he's tripping into that.
Oh boy!
I don't know. I'm gonna have to disagree.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can. I have it all broken down on my community's page.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So I didn't see any priority in that. I saw that him saying, "Hey, look, he's talking about Sabbath. That's great, and how to do it." But there's nothing about. I've heard so many Christians say, "Well, I go and I keep Sabbath, but then I go to church on Sunday." And okay, that's great. Don't forsake the gathering of the brethren. But when you go to church on Sunday, you're going with a group of people and you're going to be changed by what you behold. That's the danger in it. So you want to get back to a group of people that truly believe what you believe. And if that's family, if that's a home church, if that's something like that, great. Watch it online. But I think you should be, I agree with Doug. You should be with a group, but don't misprioritize it. The group, you should be with a group secondarily to keeping the commandment.
I think actually you guys are both, and I don't want to turn this into a debate, but actually both of you are actually meeting each other halfway. I'm not sure if you're noticing that, because Matt is showing the commandment is a commandment to rest. And if you do rest as a community, as a people, naturally it leads to fellowship. So that's that holy convocation. But to make the argument in the Old Testament, every time they kept Sabbath, they had to meet in a building. That's not really biblical. But if the home was keeping the Sabbath, naturally there's a church in here. So home church goes back to what Bradley's saying. So truly, when the people are keeping the Sabbath, it's a good thing. So yeah, I don't think we should be commending Sabbath keeping as church attendance, but church attendance in a light of Sabbath keeping is good. But you don't want to drive this too hard either, because I kind of agree with what Matt is saying. You can actually end up in the Catholic version of Sunday keeping. That's why you can see Sunday keepers go to church and then they say Sunday is a holy day. And then they go to the store, they go to the groceries, they go and eat for a restaurant. They don't really care about anything else that has to do with the significance of the holiness of the day, apart from the fact they went to church this morning. We come in and we say, no. We're not only going to church. We're going to visit the sick. We're going to preach. We're going to teach. We're going to spend time together. We're going to have Bible studies in the end. We're doing a live stream right now. That's still part of Sabbath keeping.
Yeah.
And so we go a little bit deeper into our fellowship element of Sabbath keeping rather than just going to church. So I think both matters, but at the same time, you don't want to drive it as a commandment. One thing I would push back against is Adventists have to be careful with their understanding of Sabbath keeping than other Sabbath keepers. What I mean by that is Jewish people keep Sabbath in a way that we don't. Like when they're opening the Sabbath, there's things that they do. They read Deuteronomy chapter 6. They do the Shema. They light up candle. In their perspective, true Sabbath keeping must include these things. And we'll come in who's like, yeah, that has nothing to do with that. Listen, me and my family meet together. We read a passage. We recite the Sabbath commandment, and I pray over my children. And that's the way we open things up. And from that day on, we put everything else aside. We spend time with Jesus. A Jewish person can come down and say, man, you're not keeping it right. And then you can have a Hebrew Israelite. Oh, you got to see what they do. It's like a meal, friend. It's like a party. So they do that. That's their Sabbath keeping. And then you also have Seventh-day Baptists. It's interesting what they do during the Sabbath. So it's good to keep in mind when we talk about keeping Sabbath, we have to be careful that we don't take Adventism Sabbath version of keeping and trying to drive that for everyone to say, unless you do it this way, you're not doing it right. I think we have to leave room for people to grow and understand, listen, he is where he is. This is what he understands. Here's what I can add to the conversation, but we don't want to drive our version too hard. Otherwise, we're going to drive people crazy. So I kind of want to push back a little bit and say, each home have to do things based on their way to understand it in the scripture and try to do this thing as much as they can. But we don't want to become too dogmatic about that.
Right. Yeah. But would you say to the person that just says, well, it's okay, I'm going to go to church on Sunday then?
Oh, no, I don't agree with that.
Because they keep Sabbath.
I never said that. That I would not approve. Yeah, that I don't agree with. Because true Sabbath keeping, it does include fellowship. Like I've said, it does include. But you don't want to say it has to always include. That's the other extreme. Because I know there are people who can't attend church, who are Seventh-day Adventist, and they're still keeping the Sabbath. So that is also something I have to respect as well. But if you can attend church, you should. So
yeah.
My position.
Well, I think there's a deeper, and we obviously don't have the scriptures to go through this, but there's a deeper connection there that's being missed. But if anybody wants to look into it, the Septuagint actually differentiates between the rest in the Ten Commandments and the rest in Leviticus 23. The rest in the Ten Commandments is katapazen, that's a place with God. The rest in Leviticus 23 is anapazen. The rest of anapazen is when Jesus says, I will give you rest in Matthew 11. And so Jesus does take away those feasts. He doesn't take away the Sabbath, the weekly cycle. And so that's why I'm making that delineation, because actually the Greek Septuagint and the Qumran community that keeps the Dead Sea Scrolls, right, that kept the Dead Sea Scrolls, they adjusted their calendar so the 7-day cycle never overlapped with those feasts in Leviticus 23. There's actually an exegesis reason for this delineation I'm trying to make.
Okay. I need to see your notes. You're giving me some food for thought here. All right, let's listen to what Sister Candace Owens has to say, because